Persona 4 is a beloved game, and in my opinion, the game that started giving Atlas some recognition. An analogy to describe that would be Persona 3 crawled so Persona 4 could walk so Persona 5 could run. So of course, with any beloved game, a remake will always carry some weight with the fans. The recent remake Persona 3 Reload was very well received, but had some drawbacks of its own. The main one coming to mind is them replacing original vocalist Yumi Kawamura. We will be using Reload as a base for possible changes we could see in a remake of Persona 4. The rumor train is going full steam ahead, with rumors of a Persona 4 remake appearing pretty much everywhere you turn. With the remake likely on the horizon, there are a lot of pros and cons that could come with it, so I present to you the pros and cons of a Persona 4 remake. Let's start the video off with the positive things we could see in a remake. The most obvious pro that we would see is redone visuals on the level of Persona 5 Royal, and with Persona 4's Frutiger Metro inspired style, it would look amazing. Mix that with elements of the TV world, and honestly, it might top Persona 5 style. Another pro that's pretty much guaranteed is quality of life features like the baton pass or even the theurgies we see in Reload. These make the battles flow much smoother and in a more satisfying way. The next pro isn't a guarantee, but it would be very much welcome, this one being new content. Maybe something like a playable Mary, or an extra dungeon, or more content to do in the TV guide introduced in Golden. These would all be very welcome additions that would enhance the game in my opinion. Another potential pro is they could rework the dungeons to be more like the ones in Persona 5, with unique pre-made layouts for each dungeons, instead of the random auto-generated ones present in Persona 4. New songs are always a welcome addition and could be a great pro. The new tracks in Persona 3 Reload, for example, like It's Going Down, were all great. The final pro I think we'd see from a Persona 4 remake is just the introduction of it to new fans. Persona 3 Reload did wonders for Persona 3, bringing a lot of people's attention to it. This is something I would love to see for Persona 4, as it currently feels like a hidden gem in some ways. Alright, now time for the cons. To me, the most obvious con would be losing the voice cast of Persona 4 Golden. The voice performance of Golden is one of the greatest performances I've ever heard in voice acting, just in general. The cast is stacked with some very talented voice actors like Yuri Lowenthal, Laura Bailey, and Troy Baker, among many others. Persona 3 Reload replaced the original voice cast, which wasn't as big of a deal because, let's be honest, the original Persona 3 voice acting was rather inconsistent in its quality, not to mention drama with a certain voice actor. Anyways, this is unlike the Persona 4 Golden voice cast, which is very high quality even to this day, with no drama around its cast, so losing these performances would be very unfortunate. This next con is something I don't think we'll have to worry about, but there is still a chance of it happening, this being them getting rid of Shihoko Hirata and pursuing a new singer like they did for Persona 3 Reload. Why I say I don't think we have to worry about this is for two reasons. The first being Yumi Kawamura's aging was probably a big factor in why she didn't return for Reload, especially since her co-singer Lotus Juice did return. The other reason being Shihoko Hirata was recording audio for an unknown video game in the same studio that the Persona games used for their recordings very recently, so it seems likely that this is connected to everything. So what I'm about to go into isn't so much a con, but more of a question. This question being, does Persona 4 really need a remake? In short, not really, but a remake wouldn't hurt either. Here's why. Persona 4 is in not as much of need of a remake as Persona 3 was, because almost everything about the game has honestly aged pretty phenomenally. And there aren't any features or stories split across different releases like Persona 3 suffered from. The voice acting, as mentioned earlier, still holds up great, the music is always going to be great, the story and characters are all written well, and of course the gameplay holds up well in all areas except two, but those two things are pretty minor. These two things being the random generated dungeons, and then Persona 4 doesn't have the baton pass introduced in Persona 5. The only thing about Persona 4 that has really aged is the visuals, but even then you could honestly argue that's part of its charm and even matches the small town aesthetic the game takes place in. So no, Persona 4 does not need a remake, but I don't think seeing Persona 4 with Persona 5 level visuals would be a bad thing, and it would be very pleasing to look at, as mentioned before. Well, there you have it, all the pros and cons I could think of on the heavily rumored Persona 4 remake. All that we have to do now is wait and see which of these happen. I'd love to hear in the comments what you guys think about the possible Persona 4 remake. Do you want to see one? Is there anything you'd be worried about? Till next time, see ya.